Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle back in Washington tonight. One step closer. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right after the Iowa caucuses, the Angle gave advice to Governor DeSantis and Governor Haley. Drop out. People forget how young he is. So with what, 3 more years as Florida's governor? He can build an even greater track record of success in that very important state. So a future in the Republican Party for him could be really bright. But he's simply not going to be president this time around. So it's time to step aside and endorse Trump. Waiting for South Carolina, it's a colossal waste of time, it's a waste of money, and frankly, it's a waste of your future political capital. Now, for having the nerve to say that, I was set upon by a bunch of paid flacks for both candidates who obviously preferred to stay right on that gravy train as long as possible. But yesterday, DeSantis made the right call by suspending his campaign and endorsing Trump. Now, I've been telling you there's a lot of good news lately, and tonight I'm going to say it again. There's a lot of good news, and this is good news for the populist movement and for the country. Now, the Angle has always had great respect for how DeSantis has led Florida. Thanks to his policies, it's now a solidly red state, and it's growing like gangbusters. We all know that narrative. He's built a strong, multicultural coalition there that I think represents the future of the Republican Party. It's fantastic. It's smart for both Trump and DeSantis now to put all the past slights aside and work together. But Nikki Haley thinks she's smarter than both of them. She thinks she's tougher and more resilient. She's not a quitter and she's not a victim, except when she plays one on TV.
We were the only Indian family in our small southern town. I was teased every day for being brown. So anyone that wants to question it can go back and look at what I've said on how hard it was to grow up in the deep South as a brown girl. I was disqualified from a beauty pageant because I wasn't white or black, because they didn't know where to put me.
Well, none of us knows what went down there. I'm sure there were slights and insults, but it all kind of sounds very convenient and a little bit odd. And frankly, it sounds like something a liberal would say. But it's something that the so-called moderates might actually like to hear because they like the same, remember the hashtagging of BLM during the Floyd riots? The same, I'm a fiscal, not a social conservative, the billionaire types who happily virtue signal about DEI and nod silently when others talk about structural racism because they think it makes them seem less greedy and more groovy. And how many of them are now lining up behind Haley? The answer, a lot. For some reason, Haley thinks that the right way to attract working-class Republicans and independents is to court Wall Street. The Hill is reporting that billionaire Stanley Druckenmiller, Henry Kravis, Ken Langone, and Cliff Asness are reportedly planning a fundraiser for Haley, a big one, on January 30th. It's going to be in New York then, but that's not all, because after that, she'll be hitting Miami and Palm Beach to meet with wealthy donors and also go to California and Texas before the South Carolina primary, where she hopes she's going to meet more donors, according to a source. Now, Haley's team is bragging about all this, bragging about their $24 million fourth quarter money haul, and that's a lot of money. But it also got a third-place finish in Iowa for her. And the spending on all that ads, did it really work? It's hardly impressive to me. She's hoping an additional $4 million ad buy in South Carolina is going to ensure that she's no Jeb Bush. She's not the Bush of 2024, no way. But in this climate, where the winning message is closer to power to the people, she's veering toward power to the plutocrats. It's not smart at all for either the billionaires or Governor Haley. They might as well light their money on fire at this point, throw it off the top of the tallest building they can find, or send it to their favorite cause. I don't know, I'm trying to be creative here. Ukraine? Send it right to Zelensky. Haley is finished, and prolonging the obvious is just ensuring that she has no political future. It's not really going to hurt Trump at this point. Well, maybe she has a political future if you think Liz Cheney has a bright political future. Now, Trump didn't win because DeSantis ran a weak campaign. A lot of people are dumping on DeSantis. Trump won because the Republican base was never going to abandon him once the Biden administration decided to use the Justice Department against him. I mean, conservatives understand properly that we can never let the Democrats pick our nominee. Never. And we know that if they succeed in weaponizing the DOJ against President Trump, they're going to use the same tactics against anyone who ever really threatens their hold on power. That sort of tyranny cannot stand, and Republicans have wisely pulled together to make sure it doesn't. Now, under these circumstances, most Republicans were not looking for an alternative in 2024. But let's not forget all those former Republicans who claimed that they were appalled by the chaos of President Trump. For almost 8 years, they told us that they weren't so concerned with President Trump's policies. Oh, no. They were just upset that he didn't follow the norms, that he was dangerous. Now, Governor DeSantis' campaign proved that those people were actually lying. Because if they really had been looking for the principled conservative they claimed they wanted, they would have rallied to Governor DeSantis. But they didn't. Because they don't like DeSantis' policies either, or his beliefs. They want open borders. They want the U.S. to be China's equal, or even maybe junior partner. And they want social conservatives to stand down. And they want war, lots and lots of war. So as long as it doesn't inconvenience the CCP, that is. That's what they've always wanted. That's what they want now. Everything else they tell you is a lie. They aren't conservatives. And frankly, they're not really patriots, not at least the way I think of patriots. They're not principled. And that's why they had little to no interest in supporting DeSantis. Because they only support politicians they can control. But believe me, Governor Haley, Governor DeSantis, excuse me, you're better off without them. Because when Ron and Casey DeSantis appear at the RNC, and they'll do so this summer, they're going to be greeted with cheers and joy. But not the self-proclaimed principled Republicans who work to help Biden and destroy Trump.